Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time in life when we are forced to face an uncomfortable truth, one that shakes the very foundation of who we are. A truth so painful, yet so necessary. Not all who share our blood share our heart. We are born into families believing they will protect us, love us, and stand by us. But what happens when those we trust the most become the ones who wound us deepest? What happens when the people meant to guide us are the very ones who push us into the abyss of doubt and despair? Let us break the illusion. Blood is not the ultimate bond. Loyalty, respect, and understanding are. Some of us carry the burden of rejection, feeling unworthy, wondering what we did wrong. But I tell you now, the fault is not yours. Some betray out of fear, some abandon out of their own insecurities, and some reject simply because they cannot comprehend the strength you possess. Betrayal by blood is a wound that cuts deeper than any other. It is not just the pain of rejection. It is the destruction of the foundation upon which we built our understanding of love, trust, and belonging. When the very people who should protect and nurture us turn their backs, it leaves behind a void, a silence that echoes louder than any words of comfort. The pain is raw, unrelenting. At first you search for reasons. What did I do wrong? Why am I not enough? You replay moments from the past, trying to pinpoint the exact fracture. The moment love turned to distance, warmth turned to cold indifference. But in truth, sometimes there is no grand event, no catastrophic moment of betrayal. Sometimes rejection comes in slow, subtle waves, words left unspoken, support withheld, love rationed like it was something to be earned rather than freely given. And yet, the weight of it remains. To be cast aside by strangers is one thing. To be betrayed by those who share your blood is another. It shakes your identity, forces you to question your worth. Society tells us that family is everything, that no matter what happens, blood is thicker than water. But what if that very bloodline suffocates you? What if the people meant to hold you up are the ones who keep you down? The pain is not just in the loss, it is in the realization that what you thought was love may never have been real at all. That, perhaps, the affection you received was conditional. That the approval you sought was never meant for you to have. It is a grief that lingers, an ache that does not fade overnight. But in this pain there is also power, because in facing this betrayal, you begin to understand something vital. You are not defined by those who abandon you. Their rejection does not reflect your worth. It reflects their inability to see it. The road forward is not easy. It is filled with moments of doubt, nights of loneliness, and the haunting memories of what should have been. But it is also a road of rediscovery, of understanding that love, true love, is not about obligation or duty. It is about choice. You are not alone, even if it feels that way. Somewhere in this vast world, there are people who will see you, who will value you not because they have to, but because they want to. And that, in the end, is the greatest truth of all. Family is not bound by blood. It is bound by love, by respect, by the unwavering decision to stand together. So grieve if you must. Mourn what was lost, but do not let it define you. You are stronger than the pain, greater than the betrayal. And one day you will look back and realize that being cast aside was not the end of your story, it was the beginning of your freedom. We are taught from childhood that family is everything, that no matter what happens in life, blood ties will always be there to catch us when we fall. It is a comforting belief, one that allows us to navigate the world with the assurance that we belong somewhere. But what happens when that belief is shattered? When the very people meant to stand beside us are the ones who turn away? It is difficult to accept that family is not always a source of unconditional love. The illusion is powerful, deeply ingrained in our minds by tradition, culture, and society. We want to believe that no matter the differences, no matter the struggles, family will always come through. But life has a way of revealing uncomfortable truths, and one of the hardest to face is this: blood does not always mean loyalty. Some learn this truth early, in the form of parents who withhold love, siblings who compete rather than support, relatives who judge instead of nurture. Others learn it later, when a crisis or success brings out the hidden resentment, jealousy, or indifference lurking beneath the surface. In that moment, the illusion crumbles. The safety net disappears, and what is left is the realization that not everyone in your family is truly your family in spirit. It is painful to confront. The mind resists it, searching for excuses. Maybe they didn't mean it. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe if I try harder, they will see my worth. But how many times must a person be cast aside before they accept the truth? Love that must be earned is not love at all. Affection that is given only when convenient is not real affection. A bond that requires you to shrink yourself to maintain it is not a bond worth holding onto. The moment we break the illusion, we free ourselves. We stop waiting for the approval that will never come. We stop carrying the burden of fixing relationships that were never built on mutual respect in the first place. It is a painful process, but also a liberating one. Because once we let go of the expectation that family must love us simply because they share our blood, we open ourselves up to a different kind of love, one that is chosen, not inherited. True connection is not dictated by genetics. It is built on understanding, respect, and effort. And sometimes, the greatest act of self-love is accepting that some people, even those we share a last name with, do not deserve a place in our lives. So break the illusion. Let go of the idea that family is defined solely by birth. Instead, seek out those who choose you not out of obligation, but out of genuine care. The people who see your worth without you having to prove it. The ones who stand by you not because they must, but because they want to. That is where real family is found. That is where you truly belong. Rejection is a deeply human experience, but when it comes from family, it strikes at the very core of our identity. We are wired to seek acceptance, especially from those who raised us, those we grew up with, and those who share our blood. Family rejection, however, is not just about being left out or ignored. It is about feeling unseen, unheard, and unworthy in the very place where love was supposed to be unconditional. But why does it happen? Why would a parent, a sibling, or a relative turn away from someone who is supposed to be part of their tribe? The answer lies not in the one who is rejected, but in those who reject. People often reject others for reasons that have little to do with the person they push away. Family members may reject you because you do not fit the mold they expected. Perhaps you think differently, dream bigger, or refuse to follow the traditions they hold dear. Maybe your success reminds them of their own failures. Or maybe, deep down, they fear what they cannot control. Rejection is rarely about the one who is being cast aside. It is about the limitations, insecurities, and fears of those doing the rejecting. Some families operate on conditional love. Love that is given only when their expectations are met. If you break free from their control, if you challenge their authority, or if you become something they do not understand, their response is not always to embrace you, but to push you away. This can be devastating, especially when you have spent years trying to earn their approval. You may find yourself wondering what more you could have done, how you could have been different, or why you were never enough. But the painful truth is that some people are incapable of giving you the love and acceptance you deserve, and that is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of their own emotional limitation. Understanding this can be freeing. It allows you to step back and see the rejection for what it really is, not a measure of your value, but a symptom of their inability to love fully and freely. It does not make the pain disappear, but it does shift the burden. It is not your job to change who you are to make others comfortable. It is not your responsibility to shrink yourself to fit into a space that was never meant for you. In time, you will come to see that rejection is not always a curse. It can be a redirection, a push toward people who will embrace you as you are, who will celebrate your uniqueness rather than condemn it. The pain of family rejection may never fully fade, but it does not have to define you. Your worth is not determined by those who fail to see it. And when you accept this truth, you step into a world where you are free to be yourself, without apology, without regret, and without the need for anyone's approval. Guilt and obligation are two of the most powerful forces that keep people trapped in unhealthy family dynamics. From the time we are young, we are taught that family comes first, that we owe them our loyalty, and that no matter what happens, we must always be there for them. These beliefs are drilled into us, shaping how we see ourselves and our relationships. But what happens when family uses these very beliefs to control, manipulate, or guilt trip us into staying in situations that harm us? Many who experience rejection by family still feel bound by an invisible chain. The feeling that, despite the pain, they owe their family something. They think, they raised me, they fed me, they gave me life. How can I turn my back on them? But what is rarely asked is, what do they owe me? Respect, love, support? If those are absent, is the debt truly one-sided? Obligation without mutual respect becomes a prison. It forces individuals to tolerate mistreatment, to accept conditions they would never allow from anyone else, simply because the people causing the harm are family. This creates a cycle where love is no longer freely given, but something to be earned. By obedience, by submission, by sacrificing one's own happiness to fit into a role assigned by others. Guilt is the weapon that keeps this cycle alive. It whispers, "You're ungrateful. You're selfish. How can you do this to your own blood?" It makes you second-guess your choices, even when those choices are necessary for your well-being. Toxic family members rely on this. They do not need to change their behavior because they believe you will never leave. They believe that no matter how they treat you, you will always return, always seek their approval, always try to mend what they continue to break. But here is a truth that few are willing to say. You do not owe your family your suffering. You do not have to stay in an environment that diminishes you simply because of shared blood. Obligation should be rooted in love, not fear, in mutual care, not forced loyalty. The moment love becomes a chain rather than a bridge, it ceases to be love at all. Breaking free from guilt and obligation is not an act of selfishness, it is an act of self-respect. It does not mean you do not care. It does not mean you do not wish things were different. It simply means you recognize your own worth. It means you understand that love should never come at the cost of your mental and emotional well-being. The weight of guilt may not disappear overnight, but the more you choose yourself, the lighter it becomes. And as you let go of the expectations that were never truly yours to carry, you step into a life where love is not a contract, but a choice. A life where the people who surround you do so not because they must, but because they genuinely value and respect you. Independence is often misunderstood. Many see it as a lonely road, a path walked only by those who have no other choice. But true independence is not about isolation, it is about strength. It is about knowing that even if the world turns its back on you, you can still stand, still move forward, still create a life that is meaningful and fulfilling. And for those who have been betrayed or rejected by their own family, independence is not just a choice, it is a necessity. When the people who are supposed to support you fail to do so, it can feel like the ground has been ripped from beneath your feet. The security you once thought you had vanishes, and in its place is uncertainty. You ask yourself, how do I move forward without them? How do I build a life when my own family has cast me aside? But this moment, painful as it may be, is where real strength is born. There is a freedom in realizing that you are not bound by the expectations of those who do not truly see you. You do not have to conform to fit into a family that does not value you. You do not have to keep fighting for a place in the lives of people who have already made it clear that they do not appreciate your presence. Instead, you can reclaim your power and choose to build a life on your own terms. Standing alone does not mean you are weak. It does not mean you are unloved. It means you are strong enough to walk away from what does not serve you. It means you refuse to accept the idea that your worth is tied to anyone else's approval. Of course, the journey is not easy. There will be moments of loneliness, moments of doubt, moments when you wonder if you made the right decision. The pull of the past is strong, and the desire for family acceptance never fully disappears. But the more you embrace your independence, the more you will see that your strength does not come from those who abandon you. It comes from within. Independence is not just about surviving without your family's support, it is about thriving. It is about proving to yourself that you are capable, that you can build a future that is not defined by the limitations placed upon you by others. It is about surrounding yourself with people who choose you, not out of obligation but out of genuine love and respect. And in time you will realize that what you lost was not stability but an illusion. The true foundation of your life is not in the people who failed you, but in your own ability to rise. You are not a victim of your past. You are the architect of your future. And as you step forward, free from the chains of expectation and rejection, you will see that independence is not the absence of love, but the gateway to discovering the kind of love and support that was always meant for you. Forgiveness is often misunderstood. Many believe it means excusing the pain, allowing those who hurt us to return unchanged, or pretending the wounds they cause no longer exist. But true forgiveness is not about them. It is about you. It is about freeing yourself from the weight of resentment, from the endless cycle of replaying what was done to you, from the burden of waiting for an apology that may never come. When family betrays you, the instinct is to hold on to the pain. After all, how can you forgive those who turned their backs on you, who made you feel unworthy, unloved, invisible? The anger is justified, the sadness real. But here's the truth. Holding on to that pain does not hurt them. It hurts you. It keeps you chained to the past, reliving moments that should no longer have power over you. But does that mean you must let them back in? That you must reconcile, return, pretend as if nothing happened? No. Forgiveness is not the same as reconciliation. You can forgive without forgetting. You can release the bitterness without reopening the door. Some relationships, no matter how much we may wish otherwise, are not meant to be repaired. Some wounds are too deep, and some people will never change. And that is not a failure on your part. It is simply reality. The decision to let go is yours alone. It is not about proving anything to those who hurt you. It is not about showing them that you are strong, that you have moved on, or that you are the better person. It is about reclaiming your energy, your peace, your ability to move forward without their shadow lingering over you. And sometimes, the best way to forgive is to walk away, to accept that they may never understand the damage they caused, that they may never acknowledge the pain, but that their refusal to see does not mean you must continue to suffer. Letting go does not mean you erase the lessons. It does not mean you forget what happened. It simply means you refuse to let it define you. You are not the pain they caused. You are not the rejection you faced. You are more than the hurt, more than the disappointment, more than the longing for something that was never given. Forgiveness in its truest form is an act of self-liberation. It is choosing to no longer let those who wronged you have control over your emotions, your decisions, your future. It is stepping into a new chapter without carrying the weight of old wounds. So forgive, not for them, but for you. Not because they deserve it, but because you do. Not to fix the past, but to free yourself from it. And as you move forward, may you find the peace that was always meant for you, the peace that was never in their hands to give, but in your own heart to claim. Healing is not a straight path. It is not a single moment of clarity, nor is it a destination that you reach and suddenly everything is fine. Healing is a journey, a slow, sometimes painful process of rebuilding what was broken, rediscovering what was lost, and redefining who you are outside of the pain you endured. When family betrays or rejects you, the wounds run deep. But no matter how great the loss, healing is possible, and more than that, it is necessary. At first, the pain feels unbearable. It is not just about what was done, it is about what should have been. The love that was withheld, the support that never came, the feeling of being an outsider in the very place where you were supposed to belong. The weight of that absence can be overwhelming, making you question your worth, your place in the world, even your ability to trust again. But healing begins with acceptance, not of the mistreatment, not of the betrayal, but of the fact that it happened. There is no use in pretending the pain is not real, or that the rejection did not hurt. It did, and you have every right to grieve. But grief is not meant to be a permanent home. It is a passage, a process of letting go of what was in order to make room for what can be. With time, you start to understand that healing is not about fixing what was broken. It is about growing into something stronger. The people who turned their backs on you, who failed to see your worth, who made you feel like you did not belong, they do not get to define you. They do not get to dictate how your story ends. You may not have had control over what happened to you, but you have control over what comes next. You have the power to build a life that is full, meaningful, and surrounded by people who truly see you. People who love not out of obligation, but by choice. People who celebrate your existence rather than tolerate it. And as you heal, you will begin to realize something profound. You did not lose everything. In fact, you gained something invaluable. Freedom. Freedom from expectations that never fit you. Freedom from the need to prove yourself to those who refuse to accept you. Freedom to create a new definition of family, one that is not limited by blood, but expanded by love. Healing does not mean the pain disappears overnight. There will still be moments of sadness, moments when the past echoes in your mind. But those moments will come less often, and when they do, they will no longer hold the same power over you, because you will know that you have moved beyond them. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become. And as you walk forward, no longer bound by the past, you will see that healing is not just about surviving. It is about thriving.